Well, Crash, we're live. I was gonna do the intro from the other day, but for some reason, I don't know what I did with it today. So I think I didn't save
All
it
good.
as an intro. I saved it as a video file. But uh, needless to say, my homies, what is going on? And welcome back to the Mile High Hotspur. My name is LeoCoys, and I am joined by my homie KTK. Uh, Crash, how we doing, my homie? I mean, there's really no way to get into it, but how have you been, my homie? It's been a minute, my homie.
It has been a minute, and I'm glad to see you again, Leo. I've been good. Like I mentioned before we started, I just got back from a nice little vacation down in Mexico with the family, just to get away. Needed some R&R, and it was one of those vacations where I came back and actually felt like I was on vacation. So it was much needed, much appreciated that I was able to get the time off and take the fam, and we got to be with some friends as well. So I'm feeling great. Family's great. My daughter got to walk out with the starting 11 on Saturday. So for me, it was a proud dad moment that I am excited for. She got to walk out with Reggie Cannon. As you guys all probably know, since with the other streams, she plays in the Rapids program and just is a soccer lover at heart, and it was one of her proudest moments with the PIDs. So I was excited. So I can't be any more excited with life right now. So I'm trying to look at that as all the positives.
Yeah, that's what's up, bro. That's what's up. Lovely photo that you sent me, Crash. I was happy for you guys, man. One thing that is not making me so happy right now, my homie, and I don't know if it's panic time yet. I don't know if we need to let our miss cook, or I don't know if it's still early days, but I was kind of looking over the stats, and I will pull them up here eventually. But it just seems to Crash, that we've had a bad run of games, obviously, but apart from that, I start to try and think, when's the last time the Rapids had a solid performance? And I have to go back a bit, you know what I mean? I start to think, and I
Mhm.
think it goes back as far as like the Charlotte game. And then I even asked, because I asked my homie Greg, because Greg and myself, we watch the game, we stand together to watch the game, and we kind of
Mhm.
feed it, just insights off of one of each other. And you know it's just it's been very hectic, bro. And I mean, I guess I lost my train of thought where I was going with this, but um how are you feeling, bro? Is it panic mode, or like, just, is it still early days for
Yeah.
you?
Um, we're on the edge of the panic button, I will say,
Crash,
and
crash,
I
crash.
will.
Sorry to cut you off, bro. I know what came back to me. Sorry. I know. I don't want to
Oh
lose it
yeah,
again. I'm
you're good.
sorry,
You're
Crash.
good. Go ahead.
I was saying, the homie Greg and I, we kind of bounce insights off of another, and that's what I asked him. When's the last time the Rapids had a solid performance, bro? And that's when he said maybe Charlotte. But then he was like, when's the last time the Rapids actually had a good team goal? And we'd probably have to go past Charlotte. So sorry to cut you off, bro. That was just my train
No,
of
you're good.
thought. Crash, back to you, my homie.
Yeah, man. I we're on the edge of the panic button, is what I'm saying. I think we've had the past three games. I think you look at the past three games, and have there been some good moments? Yes, I think there have been. I think the bright spot of the past three games have been Nico Hansen, despite some of the score lines.
Mm.
I
Hmm.
think he's something that we can look at. I think Teddy with KDP has been doing a good job at that wing. I think he's still getting into the system and still getting minutes. He's not getting a ton of minutes. He's usually out by 60 minutes. Cole hasn't been in the mix. I think he got some minutes on Saturday and was still injured. So, I mean, the way I look at it is we're on the edge of that panic button, and it's not necessarily because we have people who can't play. It's because it looks to me the team is 100% mentally discombobulated. I don't know, like they're just not on the same picture. They're frustrated. It's there's a mental game that they are losing right now, and I'm not sure where it's coming from. I'm not sure what's the cause. The thing that I can only go back to is, and this isn't a knock on Georgie, because I think Georgie is one of the best players we've ever had, and he could be. But I think ever since Armis had him as captain, something has been off. And whether it's him finding his place as a captain or as a leader on the team, his voice, or maybe it's too much pressure for him to do
Mm,
both, to be Georgie and the captain. I want that, up the effing pids Georgie from last season, and we haven't quite seen it. And I think it might be pressure. I think it might be mental. I think it's a putting a lot of weight on the shoulders of each other. These are all young guys, and I'm concerned that that weight has kind of crushed them a bit. I think there's
mm,
an expectation that they have to perform and they have to do this. Last year was something to prove FC, right? Something to prove FC was kind of the motto, and I think they lived by it. And the not dead yet mentality kind of situation. And I just think that they've gotten something in their head that they have to get past. If we cannot get past that mental hurdle, it's going to be a challenging season. And, I think, the week off this week might be helpful. I think we could have a really good get right game with Galaxy, who's can be dangerous, but also could lose
yeah,
really easily, right? But
yeah,
I am concerned. I will say if we can't have a positive showing against the Galaxy on was it in a week and a half, then it's panic button time to a degree. I think we need a lot of help coming in July. I think we need some help in the attack, obviously. But I was lucky enough to get a couple seconds with Armis at the end of the game on Saturday, and I told him, I go, just keep fighting. Keep digging, keep fighting for everything. And he says he just looked at me, kind of frustrated and confused, just like he was really just like you could tell he was feeling it, I guess is what I was trying to get
mm,
at. And he's like, we just
mm,
need to score goals. We need to score goals. We need to get off the foot quicker. And, if we can get a goal early, it's going to take that pressure off. And I
yeah,
think, what he's seeing is these guys are getting, when the goals aren't coming, the pressure is mounting and mounting and mounting, and it then
mm.
becomes in their head. Right. And I think
Ah,
you see it, trying to upgrade the shot and not taking shots, trying to be perfect. I think they just need to play and have fun.
mm.
And if we can
Eh,
do that, I think it'd be better football.
I think, and I didn't really like. I mean, the focus of the stream today. I didn't necessarily want to dwell on the game, on the past game too much. I want to basically do an overall of what we've been seeing lately. But one
Yeah.
thing I will definitely say about the game, and feel free to say, I mean, by all means, chime in whenever you want about the game. But what I'm saying is, they had tons of opportunity. The Rapids did. We had
Yeah.
corner kick after corner kick after corner kick, which is a theme of other games in the past as well. We have
Mhm.
opportunities, but that's what reminded me is what you just said right there. What Armis said, we just need to score goals, and that's just it, my homie. That final ball is just lacking, and I say that because even this past game, we had. I mean, I don't even want to look at the numbers, homie, but we've had probably 10 chances, six to 10 corner kicks,
Mhm.
good chances. I'm not saying just big chances. I'm saying in overall, we
Oh
had
yeah.
corner kick after set piece, after throw in. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
We were getting tons of opportunity to make it happen, but we just couldn't make it happen, Crash. And if we
Yeah.
if this is gonna continue, then we're gonna lose these games 1-0, 2-0, 1-2 at home easily because these
Yeah.
teams are gonna take advantage of that, my homie. They already know that
Right.
Look, and this is another thing I want to compare. Our pressing compared to last year, I feel like it's fallen off a lot, bro. You know what I mean? And I don't
Mhm.
want to take a dig at none of these players, but I just feel like the hustle is definitely not what it was. And then
Yeah.
here's an interesting thing, my homie Crash. I was looking at I was looking and comparing, and I was using GTP or whatever the fuck it's called to help me to do like a compare and contrast of this season compared to last season. The
Yeah.
numbers are almost identical halfway through. But that's an
Mhm.
outlier, my homie. I started thinking, well, that's bullshit because last season we had an excellent start of the season. We had an excellent Leagues Cup run. It's not until the end of the season that we ended up kind of wiltering out, my homie. That's when
Yeah.
Cole Bassett, Georgi Mihailovic was out with the Olympic
Mhm.
squad. Cole Bassett ended up picking up some sort of knock there towards the end of the season that I think kept him out for the rest of the season, like
Yeah.
with 4 weeks
Did.
to go. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
We slumped towards the end of the season, which I feel like accumulated us maybe three, four, maybe even five losses towards the end of the season there. That who's to say if we
Mhm.
were still in rhythm, possibly didn't go too deep into that Leagues Cup run, we would have been able to translate that into the MLS. But so what I'm getting at with that Crash is it's definitely it feels like night and day comparing the two seasons. But when I looked at them halfway through, because I want to say we're about halfway through the season now, homie. You know what I mean? We're just
No, we're
about halfway
halfway.
through the
Yeah.
season. Yeah, we're halfway through the season, so it's a fair assessment to say
Mhm.
this half of the season can play out as much as this whole season, past season, if that makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah.
I, I mean, how is it that like was it just a very good run from the Rapids last season to start the season, homie, that kind of masks over the shade now, or is it just that bad of a season that we're having right now that makes up for the outlying numbers?
Yeah, I think what it is, what the difference between this season and last season is where we came from out of 23, 20, was it or 22, 23 season where
Yeah,
we couldn't do anything. Right?
yeah.
We there was like all hope. We never expected to win a game, we when we did, it was a surprise. It was a pretty bleak season. We come out of that with some hope, some additions, some changes, and then we actually see some performances. Right, they started off a bit rocky, but then they kind of picked it up, and then we saw some good opportunity, and we saw it was the grit. We saw fight and dog, and we saw these guys who really, really wanted to play, and they were putting shots in the goal. Right, they were scoring multiple goals in a game. Right, I think that's the difference between this season and last season is where we came from in that moment to where we ended up last year and seeing hope and seeing fight and we seeing them really dig all the way to the final minute and pulling games out where I think what we're seeing now is we're not seeing that same drive and knowing what we could do. And I think that's a challenge. I think they all want to win. I don't think it's a want thing. I think it's a mental thing where they're putting too much pressure on themselves to finish, right? Where before they were just playing it hard. They just fought every minute to the end. And and I think there was no expectation. There was no like, oh yeah, like it's the Rapids, who cares about them? And now I think that they
We
got to a point where like we expect to be at this level and we're not providing at that level. And now it's in our head that we're missing a target where before there wasn't a target. Just let's play our best.
we think that we possibly may have just set our bar a bit too high,
Yeah.
or I mean, could we still just be like riding this high expectation? At least myself, bro. That's why I'm trying to get your opinion off of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. I think we know what we could be, right? I think that's the key is I think we know what level we could play at if everybody was clicking and playing at their best. And we look at some of these past games and we're like, yeah, we shouldn't have lost. We shouldn't have lost to Austin, right? That that Portland Timber game, there was a good opportunity for us to win that one, right? We were playing well, and then that we got beat. I'm looking back at the table here you got in front of us. The Sounders tie that we had at home, like that should have been a game we won. The DC United game should have been the game we won, right? There's a bunch of those shoulda games that the Dynamo 2-2 draw, again, games we should have won. It would have been a completely different story if we had done all of those things. And I think our mentality would have been living up to the expectation of what we think we should be. And we're not. And that is now putting people, it's putting doubt into their head. They're not playing because it's fun and that they're having a good time. They're playing scared and they're playing with fear. And I think, when you put fear into anybody's job, you're not going to perform. And I think that, if they can play fearless and play as a team and have fun, then I think we could see a big shift and change in this team. And I really think it's mental. I think, they're doing short passes or they're trying to be too perfect. Maybe they're not trusting each other to do the things that, there's all of that comes in with fear. And I think that has a bigger factor into kind of the performance of the team right now than the stats.
Homie, that's very true. One thing I'll add to that too is, well, I was telling you earlier how me and the homie kind of always bounce these insights off of each other or whatever. Like, I was also trying to add this to the gravy. I was telling him how even though like we didn't add a lot of, I mean, even though like the team is fairly, it's not too different from last season. We did add, some new players that are getting bred into the system. Like the system is not that much different than what it was last year.
Yeah.
However, key players like Keegan Rosenberry, whatever it is that he brings to the table, whether if it's a lot or a little bit, he's not getting the minutes that he was getting anymore. The center back pairing now is starting to be, inconsistently an inconsistent pair. Sometimes it's Cheeto and Maxu. Sometimes last game it was Maxu and was it Maxu and Murphy? Or
Yeah.
I don't even remember, or was it Cheeto and Murphy?
No,
but we've seen Cheeto and Murphy.
Cheeto, yeah. It was Cheeto was out. It was in at Austin. He was out. He didn't travel with the team to the Timbers, so he was in and out and in and out, right? So he's it's been back and forth on that.
Yeah. So the players are just, the lineup has been very up and down. How you touched on earlier, Mihailovic being the captain for the recent games that he's been captain. It just makes you wonder, like, could there just be something else that just is not being, that the eye, what's the saying, there's something that's just not meeting the eye. Because I mean, I don't know, bro. I remember seeing like after one game, Maxu and Armis were kind of having like a disagreement there by the touchline, and then why isn't Keegan getting this? Why isn't Keegan getting the game time? You know what I mean? Not to go full, conspiracy theory, but just there's tons of stuff that is just, it seems off, my homie. And it even translate over to the South Bank, like even where the supporter section is at. Like it just sometimes just feels off. Like even, like me, for example, like when I try to make my match day vlogs, I say fuck it. Like I'm not gonna do it when we lose because like the vibe is just completely off. You know what I mean? The fans not having a go at none of them, but like the vibe is just off. The players just seem off. Like you said earlier, those freaking short passes or those 1-2s, they just don't connect. And then that final ball just doesn't touch, like doesn't that final ball and that last touch just is never there. Which is why like I posed the question in the chat, like, is it time to hit the panic button? And you kind of you're like you say, like it's almost there, my homie. It's an accumulation of all of these things. Crash. Like I look at the results there. We beat St. Louis 1-0 at home. Dude, I don't even remember that game. Was that was the rain game, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
where
and
they
so like
started for like 6 minutes, and we had a 2 hour delay basically, and then came back.
yeah, and then we nicked that we kind of basically nicked that win, right? It's not even like
Yeah.
we dominated them. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and then Portland
Yeah.
just did us, and then to lose at
Well,
Austin at home,
so
and
I'll
then
look
where's
back. The last
yeah,
game that Keegan started was the Vancouver loss, the 2-0 loss at Vancouver. And
mm,
after that, he got minimal minutes, but it was really one of the last times our wingers or got any positive, anything in the green. Like I'm just looking at FOTMob here because that's what I typically use. But yeah, just looking at like Charlotte, was a good game, right? We had really good quality. He had he had high ratings along with the whole back line. I'm looking back at, let's see, the San Diego game. Where were we at there? That was Vines and Cannon, but he came in. He came in at 40 with the 46 minute and got a 7. He got a high rating. So I mean, like, I have to say that I'm not enjoying that Keegan hasn't gotten many minutes, and I think that has something to do with the vibes of the team. I think they're missing the leadership out there, and I think they're also Georgie's not getting the ball. He's not. They're not. He's. He's not getting the ball into a space that doesn't have, 15. Like the entire defensive line and midfield of the other team. In the center. And I think that was the big key. Like even this last game, I was just rewatching it just to kind of get a framework around it. And I think it's the same for Austin and even Portland. Is like we try to go through the center because we don't have any width. That the quality. I think right now it's been good to see Teddy, be some good quality ball out there. But, I liked Vines. Vines showed some really good promise in she showed some rust, but he also showed some promise in this past game starting. He was able to get wide. He was able to get dangerous and get up the field and get an opportunity up there. But we're just not getting the good quality balls into the box
yeah.
where they can play. They're trying to force it in and get the perfect shot, and there's too many people in front of them.
Just want to say big up to Logan. He says, yeah, the vibes were off last weekend. Really, after the 60th, every minute the hope fades as we see more of the same. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I agree. It's getting to that time. Big up, Cody. Hope you're doing well. My homie says the last game wasn't sharp at all, not even the first minute. Yeah, it's just off. It's just off. And then let's see here. Ironically, I think the 38th minute call and response chat was actually the best execution we've seen all season. I agree. And the team was still going for a bit,
Yeah.
for big time before the half. Yeah, I do agree. I mean, like, and see, that's just it. Like, I feel like the relationship that the team has with the fans, like, it definitely is going to feed off of one another, right? Like, they're going to
Mm-hmm.
definitely probably turn to the crowd to, hopefully keep that energy going. And of course, as well, the fans want to keep that energy going, but we want to see the same shit translate onto the pitch. But I
Mm-hmm.
can't even really be Crash. I can't really be too mad about this last game, bro. The only thing I can say, we shot ourselves in the foot by just not executing our opportunities, bro. Because
Yeah.
even with all the shit that we could, I say shit, even with all the negative shit that we could say about this last run of couple of games, this last
Mm-hmm.
game, bro, we could have won easily with the amount of chances we had. Before you comment on that, I just want to say, I want to get your opinion. Is Sam Vines our starting left back?
I think he should be. I don't think he's in the best form of him. Say, if you look at between him, Travis, I think he should be our starting. I think he earned the starting spot against Orlando. He's got rust. He's got to knock it off, but he needs minutes to do it. And I think that's the key that like, yes, he looked dangerous. He had some really good opportunities. There's that one he was able to pick off a back pass because he was so far upfield and almost
Yeah,
chipped the
yeah,
goalie
yeah, yeah, yeah.
for
Early on,
it was a
early
good
on.
opportunity. Yeah, early
Yeah.
on. And I here's the thing is I think he's got it. I think he's coming back. I think he's in good form. My concern though is I don't think they're playing the wingbacks properly. I think that that's lack of confidence from the goal for sure. And I think the key to effectively utilizing Vines and even Cannon is getting those guys as far forward as possible when they have the ball. And so for me, I was thinking about it as like, is it worth trying like a 3-5-2 or or whatever it is to do something different to allow those guys to really be functional as wingbacks more than you
Mm,
know because I don't think we're effectively doing the overlap with the wings. I just don't think we have that width. And so maybe try something different where we're trying to push those guys forward as much as we can, and then have a bit of coverage with the defensive, a trio in the back. I know we don't really have the depth right now, but if we're getting that signing from Shakhtar Donetsk, out of Israel, maybe we have the depth that we need. But hopefully, it depends if Maxu is still around. But we'll see what happens come July. But we need some help. I think we need some freshness of this team to change things up. And so I'm hoping we see a more attacking depth. I think the sad part with Cabral not even getting minutes at this point.
mm,
Maybe he's on his way out. Maybe they have a plan for him
mm,
to be gone in July. Maybe they were able to just get him off the books. I don't know,
mm.
but we'll see. It'll be interesting to see kind of what happens. But I think we need something to revigorate ourselves in the second half of the season.
Yeah. Big up to the homie Austin. Hope you're doing well. Cannon having a bad game killed us on that side, but Orlando's goal was not one person's fault. Our midfield has been absent on defense besides Laraz, and that's got to be the focus. I do want to say, my homie, um, I did watch a couple. I did watch the highlights before the stream and everything like that. And yeah, look, just to point out, because you touched on Nico Hansen a bit, my homie has been fucking phenomenal for us. That goal was not
Yeah,
his fault. Like that dude just drilled it. Nico got his hand on it, but before any of that even took part, our midfield got carved up, my homie. How is that ball gonna go straight across the 6 yard
yeah,
line, the 6 yard box, bro, and get tapped in or not tapped in, get fucking thunder cunt smashed in from right there? Nico can't do
yeah,
nothing, bro. No keeper at that point is gonna have the best opportunity to stop it. And
yeah,
so no, I'm not whatsoever like I think Nico Hansen honestly has been stepping up massively for
yeah.
the Pids in this time that he's had to,
Absolutely.
my homie. Let's see here, just real quick. I want to say Austin says getting a competent left sider to pair with Cudi Petro up front gives Navarro and Yappy more chances, so it's not desperate every
Thousand
time.
percent.
Yeah, it seems like it's almost route one football, my homie.
Mhm.
Big yourself up, my homie. Judgmental Jim, how you doing? Yeah, the homies are in the building. Hope everybody's doing good. The homie Jeremy, how you doing, my homie? Let's see here. I
Yeah.
know the goal wasn't Cannon's side, but still, no. But even then, like, not to hate on Reggie Cannon, but we've had some goals that you kind of got to look at Reggie Cannon and say, bro, either he's getting caught ball watching or he's getting beat on that side.
Yeah. Well, I think the goal was actually on the right side, came from the right side. I think it was crossed over from the left, but it was that right. So, I think Cannon's got quality and I think he's doing adequate, but also, I think we're missing the leadership on the field. And I'm not knocking Georgie, like I mentioned before. I think, he's doing his best. I think we just got a lot of young guys and we don't have that voice on the field to dig people out of a hole or that mental thing. And I think that's something we're lacking from Keegan because I think, we look back, he's got that, he does well, and he's always played solid. He might not be the best, but he's always been a solid force back there. So I don't know. I think I think it would be nice to see some of that get adjusted, but also I think we're playing mid, as Judgmental Jim had said earlier. We're a mid team, and we need some additional, you know, some additional quality to make us more dangerous. And I think we don't have that up front. I think Yappy has done a great job for what he can do, but even him, he's not the highest quality player that we can get out there. And I think Navajo's got some good quality too. But he's not playing, we're not getting him service in dangerous spots, and so I don't know. I think it'd be great to have some attacking piece to add to this front, front line that really makes people worried. Because then I think with KDP on the right, having a solid left wing, and Georgie with Hoffa, I think that that would be great. And then you're concerned on who's starting midfield, whether it's Cole or Ollie or Josh. And I think that's a good problem to have. And I think those guys need rest in minutes. And I think, that's the key. But yeah, exactly. Cabral is absolutely hamstringing this team. I know it's all about money at the end of it. If they have any hope to be a quality team the rest half of the year, he has to get off the book. That's the key.
The homie said,
I don't
talk
know how
about,
they're going to do it.
has the third kit came out yet, Crash? Is it the honey kit?
I haven't seen it yet. I saw them teasing it, but did they actually get launched? Somebody in the chat tell me. I did not see it.
I seen some lady walking around the rapids. I seen some lady walking around the tailgate party a few weeks ago with like a honey colored um kit. Maybe that's the old jersey. I don't know. I've never seen that one. So I thought that was the one that
Kind of,
just
was it
came out.
the blue and gold, like the blue and yellow color? Because that was from a few seasons back, I know. But no,
Yeah,
the new
it was
kit,
pretty
the
gold.
third, yeah, that's probably one of the older kits from a few
Okay.
seasons back. But there's a third kit. I'm excited for the third kit. It's going to be a kind of throwback to '96 from the original, which will be pretty cool. And I just saw the teaser with I think the 3 or 4 stripes down the middle, and the kind of the teasing of that old Rapids logo. So I have my old school hat somewhere. But yeah, it looks really cool. I'm excited for it. I'm really excited to see what all comes with it, which will be fun.
Watch, I'm about to show you which one. This one right here.
Oh yeah, that was the warm up pre-match. That's right.
The
Yeah,
warm up. Okay, I thought when I seen that was the third kit. That's a beautiful looking warm up kit as well, though, my homie.
yeah, yeah. The one planet. I have no idea what was that about, but yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm excited for the third one though. It's cool. It's got the the old school kind of was it the green, the old green color, which is pretty neat. So I'm excited for that. It'll be
It's gonna
I'll have to spend the money on it for sure.
yeah, I feel you, my homie. I kind of feel like it's gonna go off of the you're right, that green because of why is his name? Marcelo Balboa. It's kind of gonna
Yeah,
play off of that whole theme, right?
yeah, the original kit. Yeah, the first season kit. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
got it's kind of got that like purple, navy, gold, yellow color is the 5 stripes that they showed on the teaser, and then it had the old kind of Colorado Rapids with the soccer ball sun logo in the middle. So it'd be as the badge. So it'd be pretty cool to see it come to fruition.
I'm gonna try and pull up some season stats here for the Rapids, bro. Let me see if
Yeah, I'm with Jim. Let's bring it back. I tweeted this, or I at least posted to the group, or in the group chat earlier when they teased the kit. But I think let's use it as a refresher. It's we need something to trigger just a restart. Like, let's just season starts over. We're starting again. Let's wipe it clean. We're not in a bad spot, and at least a terrible spot in the table, right? I think we could obviously be in a lot better spot, but let's start digging for every point. Let's start fighting for every ball. And I think there's an opportunity for us to just use this moment as a refresh and say, hey, you know what? Season starts over, and we're the mentalities is going to shift, and that intensity needs to build. And I think a new kit could be a good opportunity for us to just give it a go. Use that as a catalyst.
Sorry, Chris.
Oh, you're good, buddy. I was gonna say one other thing that I was thinking of, and I think I had it in my head a second ago, and I just lost it. Either way, but yeah, we're in the middle table. The season starts now, right? We could start fresh and go from there.
I was trying to take a look at the poll that I put up, and then the video started to play, so I was hearing that in my headphones and hearing you. So I was like, "Oh shit, what the fuck is going
All
on?"
good,
But
man.
I was trying to look at the results of the poll because I wanted to put another one to see just how the homies are feeling, and Crash, I mean, just for you, bro. I know Judgmental Jim, if he's still in here, I probably could guess what he would say, but just for you, what's been just your the biggest disappointment, you know what I mean? Just maybe player wise, or maybe even tactic wise, or result wise, anything. Now that we're basically halfway through, um, just as an assessment, anything, what sticks out the
I
most?
think
Homies in
for
chat
me,
as well.
the the key that I think that sticks out is what it's always been. What it's always been, and it's the lack of investment into where the league is. I think I went into this season kind of hopeful and expecting what we're getting. I was hopeful that we overperform, but like Jim says, there attacking is super lacking, and I think that's true. And that's because who do we really have in an attack? I mean, look at who were other teams that have invested. I mean, granted, some have spent tens of millions of dollars and gotten not much out of it. But I think in reality, we could look at who we have, and if we added a high level attack, on the wing that has the speed and has that quality to get the ball into the box and make it dangerous, then it's dynamic, right? Then it becomes we got to worry about where the ball is, and if it gets to him, then defense have become concerned with where what's happening, and I think exactly, yeah, right. We've got three ballers, and exactly, and everybody else is kind of. I think that's maybe a little harsh. I think we do have some quality in midfield if they're not playing, over their head, if they're playing smart, but also, they're trying to make up for the lack. They're trying to step into a hole or step into a role to cover. But yeah, like exactly, Sam Bassett. I really like him. He's a good kid. I had a chance to meet him early in the season, and he you know joked and had fun with my daughter at one of the kit signing or kit launches at the beginning. Great guy. I think he's got great potential when we're seeing that. But yeah, he shouldn't be starting. I mean, if we're starting Sam Bassett as our left wing, we're in a challenging spot. You know what I mean? So I think the other side of that is, our defensive back line. I think we have some good players back there. It's if they're playing on that day. I think Ian Murphy is our third center back, right? And he's been playing probably better than the two main starters we would expect. I think Maxu, he's always just good enough, but he's never been standout. And then Cheeto, I think he's great and not great all at the same time. And it just depends on the situation and who shows up. And I think a lot of it really is mental, is the mental game and what player you're going to get that day. I think they all have quality. It's just if they all turn it on at the right time.
Facts, I agree. Look, man, I think I'll say, just being that we're halfway through the season, I see here Cheeto has been underwhelming
Yep.
for you people like him, but he's not really showing elite
Mhm.
validity at
Equality,
times.
quality.
Quality. I'm sorry, elite
Yeah.
quality. Okay, at times. Yeah, look, biggest takeaways, bro, are definitely going to be. I would have thought year two under Armis, we probably would have kicked on a bit more. And I say
Yeah.
that kind of just having everything more set in stone. But then I start to think
Mhm.
of it, my homie Crash, and last season I don't even think we played more than three formations. And this season we've probably already seen like three or four, probably even five, depending on how in depth you want to go with breaking down your analytics,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah,
we've
for sure.
seen tons of different formations. We've seen tons of different attempts of, I guess, not necessarily trying to jam that square peg into the round hole, but kind
Mhm.
of caressing that oval shaped peg into the round hole. Like it's going to go in there better than a square peg is, but you're still not going to have
Mhm.
as easy as a time. I kind of feel
Yeah.
like we're going through growing pains still that I would have thought
Yeah.
we would have figured out last season.
Mhm.
But then, my homie, just to play devil's advocate and see the other side of the coin, we have tried to bleed in some of these other youngsters. And I agree, Sam Bassett is still a bit away from, meriting his boots touching the pitch, like the homie said. Um, but then I look at players like Cudi Pietro, who the team scouted phenomenally, were able to pick up, for fairly a reasonable price. If you would, I mean, a fairly reasonable
Mhm.
acquisition, if you were to ask me. Um, and he's showing very good traits and flares of what he can do. So that kind of cools me out on that front. But then I see like players like Reggie Cannon, who you could say this is his second season. He wasn't a full
Yeah.
a full season last season, but he got enough games under his belt where like this is he's an established player in that locker room now. You know what I mean? Like he's one of the first names on there. Um
I'm with I, I'm with Judge Mental Jim on that one. That was when we were talking about, Sam starting. I'm curious as to why Kamani hasn't and over top of
Yeah.
him. I mean, I know he was injured a lot. He's been balling out in R2. He's been playing really well and getting minutes there. I would love to see him. I feel like he's got a better fit with the team than Sam does at this current moment, but I mean, I don't know what's going on. So I would like to see more minutes from him for sure.
He's doing good for Rapids too, though. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
He's
Oh
doing
yeah.
good for
Well,
Rapids
if you
too.
watch R2, it's actually R2 is a lot of fun to watch. Those
Yeah.
they've been doing really well, and it's been pretty exciting. And so I think there's some quality there and on that second team that I don't think is at or near what we need at the first team. But I think like why don't we get that dangerous attack instead of trying to play the kids and fit somebody in that might step up just enough to get us over the line. We need somebody who's going to carry us over the line. Give those kids those last 30 minutes or whatever it might be to just run their butts off and press as hard as possible and win those balls back. But now I just got it back. The one thing that I'm missing from this team, and this is sorry to take us back a minute, but I remember it and it
Go
was
ahead, bro.
important. The key of it is you can tell there's a mental challenge with the team because they're not, they take pressure and fall down and they're trying to win. They're trying to win penalties. I see Hoffa, get, take pressure and fall down and kind of, kind of play that flopping game. I want to see these guys get knocked down and get their butts back up and fight for balls. Like, you're not going to always win. It seems like we're not getting any calls anyway. So let's just play it like we're not getting any calls. Don't go to ground, fight for every ball. And if you lose it, win it back. I'm tired. The one thing that does frustrate me is seeing us throw our hands up and complain. I want to see a mental shift away from that to be we're fighting for 90 minutes. We're not complaining. If we lose the ball, win it back. you throw your hands up, you're benched. That's kind of where I'm at. I don't want to see this mentality of that has to shift. I know they're frustrated, and I get that, but win the ball back. Don't get frustrated on the field, because you look at the goal that was scored on Saturday. Hoffa thought he got it. He should have had a penalty and was throwing a fit. It distracts everybody. They get the ball up, and what happens? They score. And I
Yeah,
think it's mental
absolutely.
lapses like that are causing us to lose some of these games. And I want them to focus on playing well and fighting for these balls.
That honestly feeds into what I was saying, homie, originally. In I would expect more in those situations from players like Reggie Cannon,
Yeah.
experienced players, bro. The ones that I'm saying that should, have some pull in the locker room. The ones that should be in contention to be wearing the armband. Mihailovic wears it
Mhm.
because he's just a fucking leader on the pitch, bro. But he said so himself. He
Yeah.
doesn't like to be the leader. He doesn't look at himself as the leader. He just is the leader
Right.
because that's what he shows. That's what translates off of him. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um,
Right.
but
But that's the other thing too
yeah,
that concerns me, though. Like, just because he's the best player doesn't mean you're the best leader, and
exactly
that's an
right.
okay thing, right? It's to be a true leader, people have to follow you by example of how you carry yourself, and you to be able to motivate people and to get people to dig deeper than they ever thought they could dig. And not knocking Georgie. I mean, he's leading because he's the best and people want to be like him, and that kind of thing. But there's two different dynamics of leadership there. And I think that might be the biggest key. Like, we're losing on the mental game because Georgie gets frustrated. You can see it. And so if he's frustrated out on the pitch, so is
Good
everyone
point.
else. You know
Good
what I
point.
mean? Your leader
Yeah.
has to be a rock solid motivator the
Yeah.
entire time, a champion, a cheerleader, somebody who can get in their face but when they get in your face to get you to be motivated, it's a way that's motivating you, not demeaning or whatever. So I think we're lacking some of that strong leadership that, I
Mm.
don't think Georgie's figured out yet. And I don't, and that's
Yeah.
not a knock on him at all. I think he's got to figure out. Yeah, exactly. I Judge, I think you missed it from the beginning. I said the exact same thing. Since Rosenberry has been on the bench, it definitely has dropped, and I think that
Mm.
might be why. It's the leadership on the pitch.
Yeah. Crash, and just to kind of continue a bit more off of what I was saying, my homie. A good thing for me has been the versatility of our left back situation.
Mhm.
We've been able to toss in Murphy. We've been able to toss in Vines. We've been able to toss in Jackson Travis. So the availability of our players and that being ready to be ready mentality, that staying ready to be ready mentality, for me has been pretty key for us. I just imagine if we wouldn't have had that versatility with, and I guess a lot of that is compliment to Ian Murphy to be able to, to
Yeah.
to be able to handle that. Keegan Rosenberry was even doing some left backing for us there at the beginning of the season.
Mhm.
Reggie Cannon, I'm not sure if he's hopped over to the left hand side, but for a minute there, Reggie Cannon and Keegan Rosenberry were our fullback partnership. So
Mhm.
we have had versatility there, and then I'll move up forward to our midfield, and this is where I feel like we've definitely tried a lot of combinations there in our midfield, being with a double pivot and then like a somewhat of a 10 with that 4-2-3-1. We've had the
Mhm.
4-3-3, with like a single pivot. Well, I mean, a single pivot with the single six and maybe the 2-8s or
Mhm.
whatever you want to call it. We've had major versatility there too, but it hasn't necessarily been as good or as fruitful as the left back and the defensive situation has been. And I say that because, bro, Crash. I don't even know what our best midfield trio or duo is, my homie. I really don't, bro.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
then
Same.
players are, for me, in my opinion. I'll just start off with Atencio. He's been. He's not necessarily been hot, but he's been a bit more colder than he's been towards the hotter end, if that makes sense. Like he's been
Yeah.
like this, but his dips have been, I want to say, like a bit more pronounced than the jumps have been. And that's because he hasn't really had like a big, correct me if I'm wrong, Crash, or anybody in the chat. Like he hasn't had like that. I dominated this midfield performance. If he
Yeah.
has, it has definitely been a string of performances like that. Um,
Yeah. It's
like Oliver
definitely been
Larraz,
inconsistent.
yeah, yeah. The whole midfield has Crash, in my opinion, bro. You
Mhm.
look at Oliver Larraz, maybe the most consistent player there, and even there, he's like not consistently doing something good, but then he's not consistently doing something bad. You know what I mean? It's just like
Yeah. Yeah, for
he's gonna
sure.
get you there, but he's not gonna like do anything more. And then
Yeah.
I look at one of the biggest names in our midfield, homie, Bassett, Cole Bassett, right? He's I don't want to say it's been injury. I don't want to say it's been bad form, but my homie has just been off of it, bro. He's been off
Mhm.
of it. And last season, when our throughout these big this deep run in the Leagues Cup, and even throughout the beginning half towards the end of the season, Cole Bassett was a cog for us, bro, in that midfield, and he
Mhm.
was definitely the first name on the on the team sheet.
Yeah.
Now, if I was to tell you, Crash, what's our starting lineup for our next game, you don't even know, my homie.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. Well, and I think Judge Mental Jim had mentioned it earlier with Cabral on the bench. I think that him not working has thrown a massive wrench into this whole
Mm,
team because they're throwing people at that position or trying to fill somebody into that position that they're not suited for, and it's totally messing up really the mojo of the team.
mm.
I think Cole not fitting, he's been asked to play a position he's not the best at most of the season.
True,
And then
true,
he
true,
gets
true, true.
injured and has been also, and I think in his post game interview on Saturday night, you know, he was emotional about how he's been playing injured and not knowing
Mm,
he's not been playing to his best ability. And I think that I think it's really there's a mental toll that's wearing on these guys, and I think a lot of it has to do with not being comfortable with where they're at and what they're playing. And I think
mm,
if we played Cole in a position he was most confident, I think that deep lying midfielder, right, that 6 or the 8, I think he'd be
mhm,
good, really solid there, for like he was last season. If he was if there was a between the three, him, Josh, and Ollie getting the start each game, and then having them as the sub instead of like Ronan or somebody else. I mean, think how solid that midfield would be, right? You've
yeah.
got good quality pieces there that you could rotate in and out to make sure you're not getting overworked. When somebody's getting tired, you're getting some minutes off, or rotating the start. And I think that's a good opportunity. You know, and yeah, for
Could be,
sure. And
could be.
the other side of that too is if we had that attack in the front, it just there. I think there's so much pressure on the guys, and I think that's the key. And I think Jim's probably right. Right. I think that pressure is going to put pressure in the locker room. I still think they. I still think he. I don't think he's lost the locker room by any means. But
Of
I
course.
think that there's some people that are checked out, and I think that's probably why you're not seeing Harris. I think Harris is frustrated. I think probably that's why Omir left. And I agree. I'm not sure about Rosenberry. It seemed odd. He got a contract, extension or got a new deal, and then all of a sudden went straight to the bench. I didn't make any sense. And so I'm curious if there's a little bit of that going on, but I don't know. Also, I have to throw it out there. Keegan did just have a baby,
That's what I was gonna say.
and
They
and
did
he
just
and,
have a baby, but I mean,
yeah.
that's what I was telling the homie Greg. I said, he did they did just have a baby. Maybe he's having long nights, and it's not like he's not sleeping 100% like how he should.
I
Maybe, I mean, that
He looks
trust me,
like he
bro.
just had a baby.
Yeah, no, trust me, bro. Like, trust me, I know the feeling, homie. Like, my 10
Yep.
month old, like, literally, just the past month has been teething and got four, the two front, and then the two
Yep.
fangs. Bro, it has been a fucking nightmare, and that's
Oh yeah.
9, 10 months in. You know what I
Oh
mean? Like
yeah,
when they're yeah. So
yeah,
look,
for sure.
full patience. I wanna say at least for my part, homies like yourself, homies like in the chat and people that I stand around and chat with at the game, like they have been season ticket holders and Rapids fans for way longer than me. You guys will
Mhm.
have known how much you guys are willing to take when you'll press the panic button. You know what I mean? But as for me, you know, it is. I've said it before. Whiskey dick football in my case. Sometimes I feel like I'm watching whiskey dick football, bro. Is it gonna go in? Is it not gonna go in? Big up, my homie. Hope you're doing good. But uh, I'm willing to say, you know what? I have full faith in what Armis is definitely doing. I
Mhm.
want to say these players are definitely still on the Armis train. I mean, on our day,
Yeah.
my homie. I know it's been since probably Charlotte when we had just an outright dominating performance from start to
Mhm.
finish. Um, but I don't know, man. I'm hoping that we could just kick on because I do see the potential there. I seen it last season. We smashed a couple of very excellent Mexican teams in the League Cup. Made a very
Mhm.
deep run, third place in a tournament we probably were not even favored to get out of the group stage out of. You know what I mean? So
Well, and I think if you look back on it, they we entered that tournament not expecting to do anything. We just we went into it. Let's just have fun. Let's just play. Let's play hard and go as far as we can. And we lost what the first game to was it Portland, I think,
Portland,
and we came back and just went on a run. And I think that goes to show that it's a mentality thing. And I think
yeah,
I would I think from as a fan's perspective, I we put a lot on the players and the team to perform, and we
fair,
want to see wins, and we want to see them do well, and obviously we do, right? But we're
fair.
going to show up regardless. Why don't we? For the way I'm looking at it, is I had so much fun the last game because my daughter was able to walk out and in the fireworks and just enjoyed it, even without the win. It was just like I had fun. It was a great night. And I kind of feel like we need to put that same level of fun and excitement into every game, regardless of the outcome, because I just want to go have a good time with my friends and watch some soccer. It's no matter what, it's better than it was 2 years ago. So,
Right.
I'm excited there. Do I want more from the club? Do I want more from ownership to invest in the team? Absolutely. But I would just want to have the guys go out and have a good time. I want them to put on a good performance. They're going to put enough pressure on themselves. And so, I really do think the more mental pressure we add, the worse it's going to get. And these are all young guys. And let's just go have fun. It's a game. And we win, we win. If we don't, we don't. But I'm still going to be there on Saturday nights. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to enjoy time with I be on the stream critiquing and saying whether I thought it was good or not. But I love it either way, and that's kind of the key that I wanted to say. Yep, exactly. Thanks, Jim. Exactly there.
Hey, man, my homie. I do agree. I agree. Let me pull up Jim's comment here real quick. Always be there, but always push the lazy front office and corporate side of things only because they truly can do better with the flip of the switch. Look, just
Nailed
from
it.
I guess I can't even say an outsider looking in because now I'm part of I'm a fan and a season ticket holder. But if I was to say looking from the outside in, the Rapids are probably never going to be the Cronkies' biggest um,
No.
money maker, nor their biggest what's the word I'm looking for here? Like they're the least of their worries. You know what I mean? If that's fair to
Hmm.
say. So yeah, no, I agree. I mean, hopefully some could change eventually there, but for the meantime, I feel like they're doing a good job giving Chris Armis what he wants and what he probably needs for the right now. But we need an
I
attacker.
think so. Yeah, we'll see what happens in July. I think if they're able to pull something off in July with some additions, I know, like I said, there's that center back that they leaked that's coming
Mm,
in.
yeah, yeah.
Didn't seem. I only see that happening if Maxu's leaving, it seems like. But if we're adding a fourth center back to the mix, maybe Maxu finishes the season and they're just getting somebody in early. We need that tack. We need the extra attacker, and I hope to see it come in July.
Well, my homies, I do have to wrap it up. Crash, any final thought or anything, my homie? Anything you want to
No,
plug or anything like that?
no plugs. I'm excited to see everybody back at the Dick on Wednesday for the Galaxy game, and let's just have fun. I just want to go have a good
Holy
time and
shit.
watch a good game.
Well, Wednesday. Next Wednesday?
Yeah, the 25th. Yeah.
Okay. I was about to say that. I had no idea the Pitties play on midweek. Big up, my homie. I'm gonna go get a tattoo on next Tuesday, homie. Big Europa League
Ooh.
trophy right here, bro.
Nice. Love it.
So yeah. Look, my homies, I appreciate anybody that decided to join. Crash, you filthy animal. I appreciate you, bro.
Thanks for having
And
me back.
yeah,
I really
big up.
appreciate it.
Of course, my homie. I honestly love when you're on here. We're able to chat. You definitely helped me out a lot, bro. So I appreciate it. And I just want to say, my dumbass did have the video here. I just thought it was an old one. So you know what, Crash? It's only fitting. I'm gonna lead us out with the intro, my homies, because there's only one way to do it. Have a good one, you
Love it.
filthy animals.
Match day jumpy, boots on turf. Coys in the cami, I'm putting in work. Cool like smoke from the capo's perch. South back shelling, man, a vibe to berserk. See through an 8, flash get wave. LeoCoys, loco, they can't be tamed. Burgundy and blue run deep in veins. Rapids blood, it floods my brain. Roll cam early, the streets get live. Pre-game chaos, chance outside. During the game, it's war in the stands. Post-match scenes, pure mayhem, fam. Real with the vids, no cap, no filter. Mile high hotspot, I'm that builder. Voice of the fans, I ain't no poser. Denver streets.